Good evening, everyone. I'm super excited because here in my hands I have my very first book, The Brave Art of Unpopular Women in the Bible. This is part of my Women in the Bible series. I'm writing a series about women, and I'm calling it Women in the Bible series. And this is the very first of that series. Women are powerful people, and the Bible has in it stories of women, of heroic women who made tremendous impact in the Bible and in the world at large. Women who defied odds, women who did marvelous and spectacular things, and who inspired many, women who changed the course of history. However, because of the time the Bible was canonized, we also have some stories in the Bible that I feel been watered down, particularly about women in the Bible because of the time it was written. You know, it was a very patriarchal and misogynistic dispensation. And so men took center stage. Men were taking every part of society, and women were in the periphery. Even if you are rich, you are influential, you must be in the background. Using this book as a new hermeneutical approach. And of course, I'm not writing a new Bible. I can't write a new Bible. I can't possibly write a new Bible. I'm helping us to see these women whose stories have been obscure. What I'm trying to do is to bring the very power, the virtue, the value in these women out, so that we will appreciate their stories. Because some of the women, the things they did were marvelous, were spectacular. If we appreciate the things they did by knowing what actually entailed, we will be able to appreciate the Bible in its entirety. Some people are skeptical to read the Bible, particularly some women are skeptical to read the Bible because they claim the Bible is written for men, about men, by men. These women are skeptical when it comes to reading the Bible. And I'm using this book as a framework to research these women or these stories in a different light. One of these women that I so much admire is Rahab. The book of Joshua introduced Rahab to us as a prostitute. And so there was this prostitute that housed two spies. Two spies were sent by Joshua to spy the city of Jericho. And they came to Rahab. Among all the houses in Jericho, Rahab's house is what they managed to dwell. And so they found themselves in the house of Rahab, the prostitute, so-called the prostitute. And Rahab housed these spies. And by interrogation or by engaging with the spies, realized that actually these men have been sent to spy the city of Jericho. And so Rahab began to engage them. While the engagement was going on, the king of Jericho finds out that there were spies in the city. And that, of course, they didn't know where the spies were. And so he sent messengers to fetch them out. And the first house we see them come is the house of Rahab. The question is, why the house of Rahab? Why among all the houses in the city of Jericho, why the house of Rahab that these envoys found themselves? And so they came to the house of Rahab and asked Rahab about whether she had seen the spies. And she said, yes, well, I've seen the spies. They came here. I've seen some men who came to my house, but they have left. And so then she told them, if you want to catch up with them, you must set out now because they left at dawn. And so Rahab managed to put these men on wild goose chase. And so they went out chasing after these men. Now, while they left, Rahab now began to bargain with these so-called spies. She began to enter negotiations with them. Before these men sent by Joshua came, they were all afraid because the city of Jericho was a very powerful city at the time. They had a very impregnable wall that you could hardly permeate. Nobody could breach their walls. And they had quite strong army and serious security. And so to breach the city of Jericho, let alone to break the wall, was impossible. Now these spies, or these so-called spies, came in with this notion. Now Rahab now began to tell them the state of affairs of the city of Jericho. Now she began to give detailed report. Apparently the city of Jericho was afraid of the Israelites because of the many battles they have fought in the past, because of the victories they've won in the past. They were so much afraid. Meanwhile, The Israelites on the other side were afraid of these people, the people of Jericho. They were military giants at the time. And Rahab began to give detailed report of what's actually transpiring. Looking at this story critically, you find out that perhaps the reason why the Bible uses the word prostitute was because of, at the time, Rahab was operating an inn. So she was like an inn operator, or she owned an inn, like a hotel. The Hebrew word that is used to interpret a hotel was the same word that is used to interpret brothels. And so the same word that means hotel at the time was the same word that used to represent brothel. And so it's possible that because Rahab owned an inn, perhaps that is why she was described as a prostitute. Perhaps. Now, looking at the story, at the time, the city of Jericho was a very powerful city. Now, the city was built to withstand every military onslaught. Some houses were meant to be close to the wall. Looking at the report that we have, based on research, the houses that were close to the wall at the time were reserved for two people. One, spies and security operatives. Spies because of the nature of the houses, because it was close to the wall. They can see what's going out and inside the wall. Rahab found herself living in one of those houses. Perhaps she was a spy or she was a security operative. We have no idea. However, when the rumor hit the city that there were spies in the city, the very first place that he sent envoys was the house of Rahab. Was it because she was the head of the spies? Was it because she was some kind of secret operative that spied for the king of Jericho? We have no idea. Now, looking at how she engaged the spies. First of all, she engaged them and said to them that I know that God has given you the city. That kind of knowledge was not something that any prostitute could easily come by. How did Rahab know that God had given the city of Jericho to Israel at the time? We have no idea. Now, she said, I know that God has given the city to you. She began to engage them and said, vow to me that when you take the city, you will spare myself and my family. And so she began to negotiate with them. Then the spies gave their word. They gave Rahab their word. But Rahab said, no, I'm not going to just stick to your word. I want you to vow and let's use a token. Give me a token. Then Rahab said, I'm going to hang this red scarlet. So when you are coming in, you will know that this is my house, this is my window, and you spare my and all those that are with me. She then told them that, listen, these guys are looking out for you. Wait here for some days. When they go out and they couldn't find you, they will come back. If you leave right now, you meet them on the way. So wait for some time until those that are after you return to the city. Rahab had some information that was beyond the average person. She had some information that was beyond so-called harlot or prostitute. A normal harlot couldn't have had that deep military intelligence. Rahab knew the deep military affairs, the military tactics of the city of Jericho. She knew some information about their military operation, their military tactics. She knew all these military intelligence, and she used that to devise a strategy for the spies. She was able to conceal the spies in her house. That the king sent soldiers to come and ransack the whole house. They couldn't find them. How did a common harlot got that knowledge? How was she able to hide these spies? The soldiers ransacked the whole house but couldn't find them. This is not something a normal or just a random harlot, so-called harlot, could do. Let's not believe that perhaps she wasn't a harlot, as we are told, but perhaps she was a spy. Perhaps she spied for the city of Jericho or the king of Jericho. Perhaps security operative. Whoever she was more than a harlot. After the people sent by the king went and looked for them, didn't find them, they returned to the city. And eventually, because of what Rahab did and the information she gave out to the spies, Joshua led the army to come and take the city of Jericho, and eventually Rahab saved her life and saved that of her family. And Rahab ended up becoming the great-grandmother of Jesus Christ. Now, my point is, some of these stories are told, and because of the time that they were living in, you could easily be given a tag as a woman. At the time, women were not respected in the society, and so you could easily be given a name or a tag or a brand. Perhaps that is why she was called a prostitute. Whatever the situation was, she ended up becoming the great-grandmother of Jesus Christ and found her name in the Heroes of Faith, Hebrew 11. Rahab's name is recorded in the Hebrews 11, the Heroes of Faith. Of the stories that we have in the Bible that I believe we need a reinterpretation. We need to reinterpret the story and point out the various aspects of these women that bring out the value, the virtue, the awesomeness out. Instead of us dwelling on the tag that was given them, and I believe it was because of the time that they found themselves, you could easily be tagged as a woman at the time. The book that I have here in my hands, The Brave Art of Unpopular Women in the Bible, has many of these stories. It has women in the Bible that I believe that their stories have been watered down. Rahab of Jericho, we have Jochebed, we have the mother of Moses. I have a couple of women in the Bible that I've written about them, and this is the first of many series that are coming, the first of the series Women in the Bible. And so grab this book on Amazon or on my website, samodaniels.co.uk, or on Amazon. If you type my name, Samuel Daniels, on Amazon, the book will pop up. Get the book for your family, for yourself, and for some woman that you respect, and I believe it's going to be a blessing to you.